أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope all of you and your loved ones would be doing fine and enjoying your health. In our I was like I would like to remind all of you once again that you all are required to send me your research assignment topics by today, and I hope you all would comply with this deadline. And later on, otherwise later on I'll assign topics to those who won't send me the topics by today. So please keep that in mind and try to send me your research assignment topics by tonight. Okay, in our today's lecture, I would try to conclude our discussion about the Chinese diplomatic discourse, and I would try to summarize the discussion which we had about the Chinese diplomatic discourse, about the constructs of the various diplomatic constructs formulated by Chinese policymakers and leadership, and the strategies, the linguistic strategies utilized to explore the meaning of the Chinese diplomatic discourse. And in our today's lecture, we will talk about the role of diplomatic discourse in the speeches of President Xi Jinping. So, without wasting further time, we will start talking about the various role which the diplomatic discourse serves through the statements or speeches made by the Chinese President Xi Jinping. So basically, the diplomatic discourse in the speeches of President Xi Jinping serves three key functions, and these three major functions include identity function, relational function, and ideational function. So these are the three different functions which has been served through the diplomatic discourse made through the speeches of President Xi Jinping. So now we will describe these. We will explore these three functions one by one. So first of all, we will talk about the identity function. So when we look at the very word identity, it neither exists in nature nor it arises as a matter of chance. So it doesn't come out of chance, or it is we can say that it is not just a matter of chance, or it does not exist in the nature. It has to be constructed within culture at a particular time and in particular sense. So identity is something which is constructed. It is not found ready-made in nature, nor it is just as a matter of chance. So people, individual and states try to construct their identity within their culture at a particular time and a particular place. As we can see, each individual or nation has multiple identities, but the identity that one assumes or that one constructs depends on which of those identities we believe will best serve our interest in a given context and at a particular time. President Xi Jinping constructs positive. Now we will talk about the examples of the identity which has been created within a culture or which has been constructed within a culture, and we will try to find different examples to demonstrate the construction of identity in the Chinese diplomatic discourse. For instance, President Xi Jinping constructs a positive image of China in the minds of those who hear or read his speeches. So, through the speeches, the Chinese leadership tries to construct a positive and benign image of China in the eyes of the rest of the world, and we can see that through the portrayal of China as a peace-loving nation and presenting China as a responsible member of the international community. So through these constructs, the Chinese leadership tries to project the positive image of China in the eyes of the rest of the world. And when we talk about the purpose behind this very creation of identity, we can say that Xi's speeches are meant to win the trust of other countries. So these constructs of identity are employed in the speeches of President Xi Jinping by their leadership, by their policymakers, just to win the heart of the others, just to win a positive opinion from the rest of the countries, to facilitate Chinese activities on numerous fronts. So it is also related to the element of prestige, which plays a very crucial role in the international relations. And in order to win prestige, it is imperative for a state to win the trust of the other countries. So now we will move forward, and we will try to talk about, we will try with the relational function. So basically, it refers to the social relational construction of meaning between individuals or countries. So when we talk about the very word relation, so that is something which involves the social aspects of society. So it is actually all about the social relational construction of meaning between individuals and states. When states tries to establish relationship with other countries in the international relations, so this very phenomena involves the social features of relationships. I mean, the social aspects come into the picture. and it is intended to, like, when states try to establish relationship with the other countries of the world, they intend to persuade listeners or readers of the legitimacy of the country's rise to or hold on power. So as we all know that China is an emerging major power, and to some it might turn into a superpower after, like, a couple of years. So, in order to legitimize its rise, or in order to reign the hold of power or sort of supreme power, it is imperative for the Chinese to persuade the listeners to accept their rising or their increasing role in the international politics. In the diplomatic discourse of President Xi, there are three outstanding features intended to persuade listeners of the desirability of the model of relations proposed by China. So there are three uh, defining features that intend to persuade or invoke listeners to the desirability of the models of relations proposed by China. So these three outstanding features are relations between China and other developing nations, and the second one is the relations between China and the major world power, and the last one is the relations between the member countries of the global community. So the first feature is China, that describe is the China being a member of the developing country or developing nations. Like, it is all about China having relationship with the developing nations, or because as he is the you can say that the major power from the developing world, and the other one is the China's relationship with the other major powers of the world, such as the US, Russia, the Europe as a continent, and the last one is the China's overall relationship with all the states of the world. So we will try to explore these three outstanding features of China's relationships one by one. So when we talk about the China's relationships between with the developing nations, China posits itself as the world's largest developing nation, which is a key fact, or as some might see it as the leader of the world's developing nation. So China is the biggest country in the developing world in terms of population, and in terms of power, it is emerging as the leader of the developing nation as well. So Beijing also insists on the sincerity of its relations with the other developing nations, that China is very much sincere to establish its relations with the developing world on equal footings, as it does not portray itself as a superior to those other nations, but stresses its role in promoting long-term mutually beneficial developments and in supporting unity among the members of this group as a means of enhancing their bargaining power on the world stage. So China values its relationship with the developing nations too much, and it tries to stress um, its role to promote mutually beneficial developments, and in order it tries to promote unity among that group of nations to have more and more bargaining power with the rest of the world. So when we talk about the relations between China and the major power, China proposes a new model of relations based that is based not on selfish interest such as competition, conflict, and an unrelenting search for advantage, but on an understanding that the world is large enough to permit the growth of development of all countries. So China's model promotes mutual development founded on the five principles of peaceful coexistence, which is one of the core principle of Chinese foreign policy. So China believes that the world is wide enough, the world is quite big enough to incorporate different major powers in the world, or to absorb different power blocks inside it, and mm, the states should not only the model of relation just not be based on selfish interest, rather the like the growth and mutual development of all countries should be pursued. And finally, China also gives a lot of significance and value to the members of the global community. China argues that the relations between countries in the world today are very intricate, and that the global community faces growing threats to peace and stability that cross national borders. So it is therefore necessary to create a new security system that is more democratic and that drives the development of a multipolar world. So China, as a responsible member of international community, uh, posits that the world which is facing great threats to peace and stability, so it is imperative for all the states of the world that a system of security, the one which is given by China as a new security, should be encouraged to for the development of a multipolar world. Okay, now we will talk about the final key function of the diplomatic discourse displayed through the Chinese President Xi Jinping speeches, and that is the ideational function. It is the means by which China communicates and inculcates a set of ideas and values. So, first of all, it is a mean, or it is a tool through which China communicates with the rest of the world, and also inculcates, also tries to portray, or also tries to inspire a set of ideas and values concerning international relations in order to gain acceptance in the community of nation. So in order to get a decent acceptance of its role, or of its ideas, or the philosophy, it is imperative for a state to communicate and inculcates those values in the minds of the international community of states. So ideational function is the very tool which is utilized to get this very objective by states. She's speeches, an examination of She's speeches finds that China has chosen to take the Confucius approach to diplomacy, that is something which is defined as the rule by benevolence, not by the rule by might. So the Confucius to diplomacy is one of the features of China's diplomatic approach, and this is something which prefers the rule by benevolence rather than the rule by mighty. This very diplomacy of China emphasizes four key virtues. The first one is benevolence. Second one is righteousness. The third one is allegiance and forbearance. And finally, the fourth one is the forbearance. And it is the righteousness that takes priority over benefit. The logic of this Confucius approach to diplomacy rests in China's wish to ensure stability such that its own development is not disrupted or derailed. So China is very much aware of the fact that in order to continue with its development, the stability at the international level is prerequisite for that. So they give so Confucius diplomatic discourse that reproduces Chinese ideology is one of the key aspects, and one of the key aspects of this notion is the harmonious world, which is a concept that has been central to Chinese civilization for centuries. So this concept of harmonious world is not something new. It has been there for centuries with the Chinese policymakers, but they, with the rising power and might at the international level, they are propagating this concept of harmonious world in a more pragmatic and influential way right now. So here harmony means peaceful coexistence, which is as I already mentioned that the five principles of peaceful coexistence, which are the very basics of the Chinese foreign policy. And this harmony means the peaceful coexistence based on that is based on recognition and acceptance of differences. China's insistence on an approach to diplomacy grounded in Confucius principles as intended to reassure other countries that China's rise in the 21st century will not pose a threat to the world peace. So this this very Confucius approach to diplomacy is something which is being utilized by the Chinese policymaker to reject or to counter the narrative of China as a global threat is propagated, which is propagated by the US in particular and by the West in general. So, in order to counter that threat, that China's threat theory, China as a threat to the world, they are trying to counter that narrative with the Confucius approach to diplomacy, and we can say that China is to good extent is successful in doing all that. So that is all about our today's discussion. I hope you would have got most of the ideas thoroughly from our today's discussion. But if you have any queries, please write your queries to me through our WhatsApp group, and I will be quite happy to address your queries. So once again, I would like to remind all of you that please send me your research topics for assignment by tonight, and I will compile a list of those topics and will keep that with myself as a record. So wish you all the best. Stay safe and healthy, and keep preparing well for your final term exams. Wish you all the best. See you in our next lecture in this week. So stay safe and healthy. Wish you. Allah Hafiz.